What's up, everybody? It's Jordan, and welcome to the Sports Behind Show. And I'll be talking about the college football playoff rankings that just was recently released several hours ago. I will be talking about my reactions towards it, what I believe the college football playoff committee did right, what they did wrong, and overall if they did a good job or not. So we'll go ahead and get started here. Number 19 is Louisiana. Louisiana on the season is 9-1, and their only loss is to undefeated Coastal Carolina by 3 points. They have defeated Iowa State, who is currently 6th in the country right now. They defeated the Cyclones by 17 points. I've talked about it for the past several episodes, but to me, Louisiana is probably the most underrated team in college football right now, and their game against Coastal Carolina in the Sun Belt Championship game, it's going to be really, really interesting. It's going to be a great game. I personally believe that Louisiana is at least, at absolute least, a top 15 team. But, I mean, it's the typical Power 5 bias for the committee. You have three loss teams over them, and it's just very, very disrespectful for a team like Louisiana. The Miami Hurricanes are ranked 18 in the country. Last week they were ranked 10th in the country, but they got humiliated by North Carolina. North Carolina put up over 60 points and over 750 yards against the Hurricanes. I was not surprised with this game at all. I've mentioned on here numerous times that to me the Miami Hurricanes were one of the most overrated teams in the country. And to me this kind of made Clemson look bad in a way, because it really devalued their win. And that was Clemson's only good win on the season. And to no surprise, in my opinion, the Hurricanes are not nearly as good as people thought. And I was very, very surprised that the Hurricanes dropped to 18. Like I said, they were ranked 10 last week. You know, despite losing that much, I did not really think they would drop that much. But speaking of North Carolina, when they defeated the Miami Hurricanes last week, North Carolina was ranked 17th in the country. They moved up 2 spots, and now they are 15th. Honestly, I mean, Miami was a top 10 team. North Carolina put over 60 points against them and over 750 yards, like I mentioned, but they moved up 2 spots. They put up over 60 points against a top 10 team, but moved up 2 spots. They lost to Notre Dame, a top 5 team, and did not score a second half and had less than 100 yards a second half, and they moved up 2 spots. You put up over 750 yards and 60 points, you move up 2, and then you lose Notre Dame and you move up 2. That, to me, that really makes no logical sense on that. I don't really get this, and as I continue talking, to me, this was just a really, really bad rankings in general by the College Football Playoff Committee. Number 12 is Coastal Carolina. Coastal Carolina is undefeated. They've defeated BYU. They've defeated Louisiana. Both those teams are ranked. And, I mean, to me, I think Coastal Carolina is at least a top 10 team in the country. Their resume is so much better than people give them credit for. And you can really make an argument. I don't really think it's an argument. I think it's more so just a statement. As of right now, Coastal Carolina has a better resume, bigger wins than Ohio State and Clemson. Easily to me. But Coastal Carolina, I mean, if it wasn't for Cincinnati having a really good year, Coastal Carolina would easily get the New Year's Six Bowl. But with Cincinnati probably not making the playoffs, it looks like Coastal Carolina will probably play in a smaller bowl against a smaller opponent. Indiana last week was ranked number 12 in the country. They've moved at 1 spot, being 11. The top 10 is a little bit different, but the top 5 remain the same. Number 10 is Oklahoma. Number 9 is Cincinnati. Number 8 is Georgia. Number 7 is Florida. Number 6 is the Iowa State Cyclones. So that's 10 through 6. Cincinnati did not play this past week, but Iowa State has 2 losses, and Cincinnati drops because they don't play a game. Iowa State's ranked 6th in the country. They have 2 losses, and one of those was against Louisiana, who is a Group of 5 team. I don't understand the committee's all of a sudden hate towards Cincinnati. I really think it's ridiculous. Cincinnati, to me, is at least a top 5 team in the country right now. You put them up against Notre Dame, I don't know who wins. You put them up against Clemson, I think that game will be much better than people will give them credit for. But the fact that Cincinnati is ranked 9 right now is just absolutely pathetic. And if there was ever a year that the Group of 5 would have a team in the college football playoffs, it would have been this year. but unfortunately, that's probably not going to happen. Like I mentioned, Georgia is 8. They have 2 losses. One was against Alabama, the other was against Florida. Going in this past week, Florida was ranked 6th in the country, and it took on the 3-5 LSU Tigers. And LSU shocked the country and defeated Florida at home in Gainesville by a field goal. And LSU has one of the worst passing defenses in the country, and they're still able to contain Trask and the Florida Gators offense. So Florida loses to a team who is 3-5, had a very, very disappointing season by the LSU Tigers, and they drop 1 spot, which is mind-blowing to me because Florida lost to a 3-5 LSU team. They drop 1 spot. Cincinnati doesn't play a game, and they drop 1 spot. That does not even make sense. But it's the typical Power 5 bias and the SEC bias, like the College Football Playoff Committee always has. I think this is one of the worst college football playoff rankings of all time. The fact that Cincinnati is number 9 in the country and Florida is 7, they have 2 losses. Georgia is 8 and they have 2 losses. And Iowa State is 6. 6, 7, 8 all have 2 losses. But Cincinnati is destroying teams. They are undefeated, and there are 3 2-loss teams ahead of the Cincinnati Bearcats. To me, that's just absolutely outrageous and really disrespectful to a great Cincinnati Bear. Top 5 teams in the country have not changed, just like they haven't for the past several weeks. Number 5 is the Texas A&M Aggies. Number 4 is the Ohio State Buckeyes. 3, the Clemson Tigers. 2, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. And number 1 is the Alabama Crimson Tide. Like I mentioned, I've pretty much said this in every single episode. I don't believe Clemson is a top 4 team. And I've really said the whole time, I don't believe Clemson is a top 6 team. But with Florida losing, I actually have on my college football playoff rankings, I personally did. I have Clemson number 6. But I just don't really see the hype with Clemson. And the games this week for the conference championship games have huge implications on the college football playoff rankings and the final rankings. I mean, look at Alabama. They're undefeated, but they take on number 7, Florida Gators, who have 2 losses. If Florida would somehow beat Alabama, I believe Florida will get in the college football playoffs. I know they would have 2 losses, but to me, they would clearly have the best win in college football, defeating the Alabama Crimson Tide. You look at Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish takes on number 3, Clemson, in the ACC championship game. The Clemson Tigers try to get revenge on the Fighting Irish after losing to them already once this season, with Trevor Lawrence being out. But I cannot wait for that game. It's going to be a great one, and especially what type of Fighting Irish team shows up. If it's the team that played against Louisville, it's going to be a blowout, and the Clemson Tigers will win a very large margin. But if Notre Dame plays like they did against North Carolina, 11 to Tar Heels to just 17 points, I think the Fighting Irish could win. And it's going to be a very great game. And even Ohio State, they are in the Big Ten championship game, and they would take on Northwestern, who's in the top 15. And it's going to be, all these games have huge implications on the college football playoff rankings. And those were the actual college football playoff rankings. But mine are: number 6 is Clemson, number 5 is A&M, number 4 is Cincinnati, number 3 is Ohio State, 2 is Notre Dame, and number 1 is the Alabama Crimson Tide. I think the top 4, to me, I've not really changed those 4 teams, and I think that's the way it should be. And I think Cincinnati is for sure a top 4 team, in my opinion. They've played outstanding this year. But yeah, that's my college football rankings, and this was my reaction to the college football playoff rankings. If you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, we greatly appreciate it, and I'm going to see you next time on the Sports 2 Show.